Today we're going to be taking a look at how to manage your worksheets and printing. Many of the printing items are going to be reviewed. Specifically, we're going to show you how to copy and rename worksheets. Up to now, we've always worked with a single worksheet in a workbook, but you do have the ability to have multiple worksheets. We're going to show you how to move worksheets around within the workbook, how to add color to those tabs at the bottom of the screen. Now that we've got multiple worksheets, we're going to talk about 3D formulas. Basically, it's formulas that map between two different worksheets. A few review items. We're going to show you how to scale a page. We're going to show you how to print titles, which we've done before. Then we're going to talk about printing row and column headers. That's the ABC and the 1, 2, 3s that appear along the top and the left edge. If I wanted to print those out, how do we go about doing that? And then we wrap up with setting the print area, which we've looked at before. In Lesson 19, we are going to be working with managing worksheets. Now, typically we open the first file that we find in the chapter or in the lesson. That's not the case in this case, so the actual page number we need to go to here is going to be page 486. Page 486 is the page number we're going to go to, and on this page we're going to have to scroll down to the very bottom, and the file we're going to open is this E19 try B file. So you can open that file right here if you wish. Alternatively, you could go to Class Files, IIT, Excel, Chapter 2, and down toward the bottom, you're going to find two E19 try files. I do not want try A. I'm going to open the try B file. So double-click on that try B file. And once that file opens, we're going to have to save this file, doing a Save As. Going to the Documents folder, creating a folder with today's date, opening that folder, and adding my initials to the end of that file name. Alright, we've got this file open, we've got it saved, and I want you to observe the bottom of this file. Instead of one worksheet, we currently have three worksheets. There's Quarter 1, there's Quarter 2, and there's Summary. Now, from time to time, you will want to copy a worksheet. So for example, I've got this Quarter 1 worksheet, and I want to copy it. Now once I get done copying it, I might need to change some of the numbers and such, but I want to copy it so that the basic structure is the same, and we're going to call it Quarter 3. So here's how I make this happen. I'm going to right-click on Quarter 1, and there's an option here that says Move or Copy. Now, at this point, I'm going to work from the top down. Move the selected worksheet to, and it's going to stay in the same workbook, that's fine, and it's going to put it before sheet. Well, if I want this to be Quarter 3, I'm going to put it before the summary sheet. So when I'm done, I'll have a Quarter 1, a Quarter 2, and then a Quarter 3. Now here's an important part. I need to make a check where it says Create a Copy. If I don't check this, all it's going to do is move Quarter 1 from its current location to a new location. I want to make a second copy, so I have to put a check that says Create a Copy. If I click OK, it will create a second copy of the Quarter 1 worksheet. Now, I don't want to keep that name, Quarter 1 2. That doesn't make sense. I want this to say Quarter 3. How do I rename? Well, you can right-click and choose Rename. The other option is I could double-click on there and rename it. So I'm going to type in quarters, QTR, and then the number 3. When you're done typing the name, you have to press the Enter key. That locks it in place, just like you press the Enter key or the Tab key when you're in the spreadsheet. So I now have quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3 worksheets. Now, I'd like you to go to quarter 2, and we're going to basically repeat the process again. This time, it should say quarter 4. So I'm going to let you take a few seconds to copy quarter 2 so that it becomes quarter 4. You're going to have to rename it after you've copied it. Alright, so you should now have 5 worksheets at the bottom here: quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and then finally the summary sheet. Now, one of the things that we can do is we can change the order of these sheets. So for example, if I want the summary sheet to come first, what I can do is point at that summary sheet, hold down my left mouse button, and then I can drag it to the spot where I want it to go. So now my summary sheet becomes the first sheet in the group rather than the last sheet. The other thing I can do, and all this is really doing is adding a slight touch to it. There's no real benefit to this, but you can add colors to these tabs. Just makes it a little easier maybe to find a particular tab if you know what color it's going to be. So I'm going to change the color of tab 1. So I do that by clicking on quarter 1, right click on it, and I can choose tab color. Now in this case, we're going to pick the color red for quarter 1. The next tab, quarter 2, we're going to give a different color. So I'm going to right click on quarter 2, and we're going to give this the color of yellow. Quarter 3, I'm going to click on quarter 3, right click, and this we're going to give it the color green. And finally, quarter 4, we're going to right click and give it the tab color of blue. So red, yellow, green, and blue are going to be my tab colors. And again, this has nothing to do with anything on the spreadsheet. The backgrounds don't change the colors, anything like that. It's merely the tabs that you see on the screen that have been changed. Alright. Now what I want to do is we want to talk about what's called a 3D formula. The reason why we call this a 3D formula is because instead of adding down a column or across a row, what I actually want to do here is I want to add through these worksheets. So for example, you will see that in cell B5 of every worksheet, there is an expense for the salesperson of Jones. So quarter 1 has an expense for Jones, quarter 2 has an expense for Jones, quarter 3 has an expense for Jones, and quarter 4 has an expense for Jones. Now you may notice that this is the same expense for all of them. That's because these sheets were copied and they do actually have the same numbers, but in reality, you would probably, once you've copied these sheets, you go in and you would change these numbers to reflect the different quarters. So, what I want to do is on my summary sheet, I want to add all of my Jones expenses for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Now, there's a fairly simple way to do this. With my cursor on the summary sheet, cell B5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to my auto sum button, and I'm going to click right on the button itself. Since I'm adding, I know the button is going to do an addition. So it's going to say sum. Now you'll notice that it did not even make a guess, and part of that's because there's absolutely no numbers on this spreadsheet, so it had nothing to guess on. Now, here's what we need to do. We've started our formula. We're starting the sum function. What I need to do is tell it where are the numbers that I wish to add. Well, the first number I wish to add is on quarter 1. So what I'm going to do is go to quarter 1, and then if this is in your way, this actually can be moved. If you drag that up and out of the way, you can move that out of the way. Because what I need to do is I need to click on cell B5. So I'm clicking on cell B5. This is the first number I wish to add. Again, I'm holding down Shift, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the last spreadsheet that I want to add B5 on. So I'm going to Shift click on quarter 4. You will notice that it selects all of the sheets, okay? And notice your formula up here in the formula bar. It says sum quarter 1 to quarter 4, the B5 cell. It puts this exclamation point in between to indicate that it's multiple sheets. Now, I am done, so what I need to do at this point is press the Enter key. When I press the Enter key, it's going to take me back to my original summary sheet. This is where I started the formula, and it is now adding all of those cells up. Now, let's practice that again, because this is not intuitive, so it's not something that you're going to probably remember unless you do some practice. So here in cell B6, I want to sum, so I'm going to click on the auto sum button. Now this time it did make a guess, but it guessed wrong. The numbers I want to add are the Smith numbers for all the quarters. So I'm going to click on quarter 1, moving this thing out of the way. I'm going to click on cell B6. Cell B6. Now, I want to sum to quarter 4, so I'm going to hold down my Shift key and click on quarter 4. Now at this point, I want to press Enter to tell Excel I'm done. Enter. That takes me back to my original sheet. Let me tell you a common mistake people make, and maybe one that you're making even now. Sometimes people get the first part right, so they're here in cell B7. They click Auto Sum. They say, wait a minute, that's not the numbers I want to add. The first number I want to add is on quarter 1. Okay, and they want to click on B7. Now, we hold down the Shift key and click on quarter 4. Now here's where some people make a mistake. At this point, you should do what? Hopefully you answered press Enter. But what some people will do is they say, alright, I'm done. Let me go see my formula, and they click back on the summary sheet. Well, what happened was quarter 1 through quarter 4, he must have wanted to add something on the summary sheet. That's not at all what we wanted to do. So I need to go back and redo this myself. I'm going to click on quarter 1, Shift click on quarter 4. My formula summing quarter 1 to quarter 4 for B7, that's what I want, so I will press the Enter key to let Excel know that I'm done. Alright, please practice on the next 3 cells by using your sum function again. Now what I want to demonstrate is the fact that these numbers do indeed change if any of these quarter numbers change. So let's just note the first number is 14,000. Let's go to quarter 2, and in quarter 2 I'm going to change the expenses for eventually all of them, but I'm going to do Jones first. So for Jones, salesperson Jones, cell B5, I'm going to type in the actual expenses for quarter 2 of $4,250, 4250. When I press enter, that will change the numbers. What I'm going to do now is go to my summary. Notice that my Jones expenses has indeed changed to reflect the new number. Let's go back to quarter 2 and let's put in the rest of these numbers. For cell B6, we're going to type in 3,300, pressing enter. B7, I'm going to type in 4599, enter. For B8, I'm going to type in 6654, press enter. For B9, we're going to type in 4952. And for the last item, Lewis, cell B10, we're going to type in 7,300, 7300, and press enter. The reason why I'm not changing the last one is, as you can see, it's actually a calculated value. I go back to my summary sheet, and now all of these numbers have indeed updated to reflect the changes that were made to the quarter 2 sheet. So I have the ability to do a 3D summary. Now this time I'm going to get an average. What I want to do is calculate the expense per account, and I want to average the expense per account numbers for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 for Jones. So let's go back to our summary sheet. So expense per account, the only difference between what I did in column B and column C is I'm going to calculate an average instead of a sum. So the steps are basically the same. Here in cell C5, I'm going to click the drop down instead of the button itself because I want to average my numbers. So I'm going to click on average. Now I'm going to go to quarter 1, moving this out of the way. I'm going to click on the expense per account for Jones. That's cell D5. Make that happen. Shift click. So I shift click on quarter 4. Looking at my formula, I'm averaging quarter 1 to quarter 4, the D5 cells. That's exactly what I want to do. Now, while I could go through and do the average function for each one of these, I can, with my mouse, go back up to cell C5. I can use my fill handle and copy this down. Now whenever I copy, I always want to double check. So I'm going to go to cell C6, and I want to look at my new formula, and I want to confirm that it is indeed averaging the numbers on row 6. The next one should be averaging the numbers on row 7. So this indeed is doing exactly what I want for my expense per account. Now what I want to do is I want to go to quarter 1 for just a moment. And what I wish to do here is I wish to print out not this entire sheet, but I want to print from A3 to E10. So I don't want the label at the top. I don't want the median and this calculated value here. I'm for the most part just getting some of the raw data here. Now we've done this before where we want to set up a print area. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to page layout. This is where I set my print area, and I can choose set print area. If I do that, what this is going to do is when this prints, File, Print, I'm looking at my print preview, and you can see that it has eliminated the stuff from the bottom and it's eliminated the label at the top. Going back to my spreadsheet, clicking on my arrow here. The other thing that I want to do though is I want, when this prints out, I want it to print the A, B, C, D, and E, and I want it to print the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Well, I can do that. Again, all of your printing settings are found on page layout. What I can do is I can tell it to print my headings. If I wanted to print the lines that appeared as well, I could also tell it to print the grid lines. Now if I look at my print preview, File, Print, you will see the A, B, C, D, E. You will also see the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as well as the grid lines that would indeed be printed out. I'm going to click my arrow key to get back to my spreadsheet. I do want to save my work. This does bring us to the conclusion of Lesson 19 relating to this Try B file. You can close this file, and we're going to move to Lesson 20. Last part of this lesson, we're going to go to Lesson 20 in our book. The page number we're going to actually navigate to is page 491, page 491. And on this page we can download that Excel file that you see right here. That's the E20 try file. Alternatively, we could go to Class Files, IIT, Excel, Chapter 2, and find that E20 try file and open that file up. Once the file's been opened, we're going to save this file, put it in our dated folder, and add our initials to this file name. In Lesson 20, we're going to talk about some printing issues relating to printing a spreadsheet. And as you can see in this particular spreadsheet, it's a rather lengthy spreadsheet. If I did a file print, just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like, you can see that it currently is going to take up 4 pages, and because it is wide as well as long. Now I'm going to go ahead and close back out, getting back to my regular spreadsheet view here. And one of the things that you may want to do from time to time is you may want to have the spreadsheet do a page break at a specific location. Maybe if there's dates on your spreadsheet, you want all the dates related to a specific month on one sheet, the next month on another sheet, and so on. And so there are times that you will want to break a spreadsheet off at a specific location. Well, we're going to do that here on this spreadsheet. To make this happen, we're going to go to cell A30. Cell A30. And what I want to do is I want to print rows 1 through 29 on one page and rows 30 on another page. So I want the page break to happen right above this cursor. So with my cursor in cell A30, I'm going to go to page layout. As I've said several times before, page layout does contain all of your settings relating to printing. And if you will go to this breaks button that is here, we can insert a page break. And when you do that, it's going to put this solid line on the screen here. Notice also the dotted vertical line. The dotted vertical line is also a page break, but it's a computer-generated page break. In other words, the computer has decided it needs to have a page break here in order to fit things on the page properly. So the solid line is my manual page break. The dotted line is the computer-generated page break that is in place. Now another thing I want to demonstrate, because some people get in here accidentally, there is an option called a view option called Page Break Preview. So if you will, please go to the View tab and click on Page Break Preview. And here you're going to see that your document is divided with these blue lines. These blue lines are your page breaks. The dotted line, as I said before, is where the computer decided that a page break needed to happen. The solid line are the manual page breaks. Now, although I don't recommend it, you can point at these lines and move these lines. Again, it's not something I recommend doing, but it can be done. Notice in Page Break Preview, you've got the blue lines on the page. You also see these things that say Page 1, Page 2, much smaller, but it says Page 3 and Page 4. The main reason why I wanted to show you this is so that if you did get here by accident, and there's a few places where you can go that will bring you here by accident, what you can do is know that you're in this Page Break Preview and go back to the normal view. Now a shortcut for normal view, guys, is down here on the bottom of the screen. Okay, you can get to the normal view by clicking on this button here. That way you don't always have to go to the View tab, which is what you've probably been doing in the Apply activities. Now, what I want to do is I want this thing to print hopefully all on one page, at least column width-wise. Well, one of the things that I can do is I can change my orientation of the page. So I'm going to go to Page Layout, because I've got a couple columns over here that I'd like to get printed out on the same page. So let's see if we can go to Orientation and first of all change to Landscape and see what that does. Changing this to Landscape does indeed allow this page to print. Alright, but notice what happened with my manual page break. Because it's now in landscape mode, it's breaking at a different spot. So maybe this isn't the setting that we wish to use. Okay, we want to print down to row 29 on the first page. So landscape may not be our best option. So let's set this back to the portrait option. Now, if I want to get all of these columns to fit on one page, there's two ways that I can do this. I can go to the File menu, Print, and as we've looked at before, I can change the scaling to where I can say all columns, or fit all columns on one page. Now, there is another way to do this from the menu itself. And what that is I can adjust the width. On the Page Layout tab, I can choose the width to fit on one page. This is making the same setting as that scale option did in the Print Preview. I'm going to scroll down because I want to look and make sure that I don't have any page breaks where I don't expect them. So everything's fine here with the 29. Scrolling down, it looks like there's no other page breaks that are happening. So that looks like everything's going to fit on two pages at this point. Let's confirm that by going to File, Print. Here's my Print Preview. Here's the information on page 1. And here's the information on page 2. Now as I'm looking at my Print Preview on page 2, I do see that I'm missing something. Looking at page 2, I do not have the information at the top, my column header, if you will, that tells me what these columns represent. So going back to page 1, I need to have this label right here appearing at the top of every page. So let's go back to our regular menus. This is row 8 that I'm trying to make print on every page. What setting do I need to pick in order to get that to print on every page? Hopefully you chose print titles. Okay, a reminder, common mistake, you are not going to go here. This is your print area, not where we want to go. We want to go to our print titles. That's the button we clicked on. And more specifically, I want to go to where it says rows to repeat at top. So I put my cursor here, and now I'm going to click on the row that I want to appear at the top of every page. In this case, that's row 8. So with row 8 selected, I'm going to go ahead and click Print Preview so that I can go ahead and look at this in preview mode. Page 1 is fine. Looking at page 2, I now see that I have the header appearing at the top of the page. And that's exactly what I wanted. Actually, I said header. That's not correct. This is a title, a print title, to where a row is appearing at the top of the page. We're going to go ahead and get back to the main spreadsheet now. And the last thing I want to review is what's called print areas, which we talked about just a second ago. What I want to do is I want to specify a specific area I want to print. So let's select from A6, and we're going to come down to I-20, from A6 to I-20. If I wanted to print just this range of data, what I would do is go up to Print Area and choose Set Print Area. Now, sometimes you may want to create a second print area. And so if you wanted to do that, what you would do is you would select that print area. Let's go, and I missed a little bit. Let's go from A30 to I40 and come up to print area, and what I want to do is add this second print area to the first. So if I wanted to only print row 30, I'd say set print area, but since I want to do both, I'm going to say add to print area. Let's take a look and see what this does. When we go to our file print preview, it shows my first print area, and then on page 2 you will see the second print area. So we have the ability to set our print area to say only print these particular rows or these particular columns. That's going to wrap up this particular lesson. Let's save our file, and you can close this spreadsheet. In these two lessons, we talked a little bit about copying and renaming worksheets, as well as moving those worksheets around. We added color to those worksheet tabs. Probably the most challenging thing that we talked about was creating 3D formulas. Formulas that added not just from the current worksheet, but from another worksheet. We talked a little bit about scaling. We showed you print titles again. Those are a couple items we've talked about before. And then we showed you the check marks on the page layout tab that would let you print the row and column headers as well as the grid lines. And then we talked about setting the print area. The one thing we did mention on there is the ability to set more than one print area in a particular worksheet.